And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Good evening, you're welcome along to Wednesday night's Off the Ball. We're on your radio till 10 o'clock tonight. From 7:30 we're going to be speaking to Nicholas McGeechan about concerns within European football on the Trump-Greenland question. Things seem a little more stable today than they did yesterday, but you still never know what the situation is going to be. The reports coming out of a UEFA meeting yesterday was that alarm bells were blaring and the boycott idea had been floated. So we'll speak to Nicholas McGeechan very, very shortly on that. From 8 to 9 then, it's going to be a Wednesday night rugby in two parts. Part one is going to be Fiona Hayes talking about Andy Farrell's 37-man squad for the Six Nations. Part two is going to be Ross Harris explaining to us the situation with Welsh rugby at the moment. So their 4 regions are going to be reduced to 3 come 2028, and the region that is going to be killed is the Ospreys. So we'll get his take on everything that's happened over the past 48 hours in Wales. And then between 9 and 10 it'll be the second halves of the Champions League games tonight, and Eoin Doyle will be with us in studio for the duration of the football show. Our number is 0879 180 180 if you want to send us a WhatsApp message. Cameron Hill is here for tonight's Newsround. Hello, Cameron.
Hello, Eoin.
Eoin Doyle is here early for the Newsround. How are you, Eoin?
I'll go down.
You were early. We did Pablo's picks. We brought it back for 2026 earlier. People can check it out on social media. We got your predictions for tonight's games, for 2 Sunday games, the 2 best Sunday games this weekend in the Premier League, and we got your take on the Brooklyn Beckham saga as well. So there was a lot packed into 1 minute and 8 seconds of social media goodness.
And all I was thinking about the whole time was the burrito.
Yes, because what we do is we go in, we order, and then in that window we quickly go out and record before going back in to collect. So maybe we shouldn't be catching you when you're hungry.
Definitely, I reckon my picks would be more. I'd put more thought into them with a full belly, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
but sure, what's the point in that? You want them to be unhinged and like the hanger to really get to Eoin Doyle, so that he's like picking completely out of pocket picks.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
right.
It's not what the people want. Maybe it's not what I want.
Yeah, sorry for the editorial meeting at the start of the news round, but just, that would be my take on the situation.
You can give us a spoiler. Who did you go for between Marseille and Liverpool?
I went for Liverpool.
Okay, why are you thinking that?
Well, I got with my heart there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's more often than not I got with my heart when it comes to Liverpool.
Big team news tonight. Mo Salah parachuted straight into the starting 11 by Arne Slot upon his return from AFCON. Any surprises there?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it was all going to play out regarding him being away with the AFCON. It went very quiet. We heard nothing regarding Mo Salah and his future while he was over there. And before he went, and obviously even after he came on against Brighton and got his round of applause and he done well for the 60 odd minutes or whatever when he came on the first half, I was of the belief that he had played his last game for Liverpool. I thought that there was a potentially this was the moment where he'd potentially want to get out and Liverpool would really want to try cash in on him while he still has a high value. Obviously that's not the case. He's back into the starting 11 tonight. Let's just hope he gets back to the old form. Well, I hope he gets back to the old form of last season.
Well, they really need him. Like, you look through the bench and the players that are available to them tonight. Obviously we know who's missing for Liverpool this season, but you're looking at Gakpo on the bench, who can play up front. Chiesa can play up there as well. But outside of that, like, you'd be moving Szoboszlai into that position and playing Jones in midfield. A few options, but it's not as if they're laden with attackers. Like, I mean, the situation now is that if they get 1 or 2 more injuries, you're kind of down to your bare bones in your front three. Yeah,
and you'd imagine, I'd imagine that if Isak wasn't on a long-term injury, that my prediction probably would have had more weight behind it. But he's obviously very much needed now, as you said there, because the strength and depth in their attacking positions isn't really strong anymore. Even the fact that Bradley himself is injured, Frimpong is no longer. He's now their right back, whereas beforehand he was seen as he's a right back, but also I think at the start of the season there was thought when Salah was to go, if Bradley was fit, it'd be Frimpong would be playing the top 3 in the attacking 3 on that right side in Salah's position. So
Let's actually get into the news round here, because you've got some good audio from Arne Slot talking about Salah before he revealed what his starting 11 would be. I presume this is from yesterday, Cameron.
Yeah, the Egypt forward, of course, hadn't started for the club since their defeat to PSV Eindhoven in the Champions League back in November, and he claimed he'd no longer any relationship with Arne Slot in an interview before going to AFCON. Now, ahead of the 1-1 draw at home to Burnley at the weekend, Slot claimed he'd be happy to have Salah in the squad, even if he had 15 attacking options to choose from. And before tonight's game, he doubled down on why Salah is an important asset in his squad.
I'm really happy and pleased that he's back because in his absence, I think we've done quite okay in terms of hardly conceding any chance. We started to create more and more, and if you start to create more and more, it's really helpful to have a player like Mo Salah, because if there's ever been a player, I think there was one who scored more for this club, but that can score goals and that I can still play. I don't think I can play Ian Rush still. Then it's really helpful to have him back, because we would never know, but the amount of chances, the amount of ball possession against Burnley with Mo on the pitch would usually mean that we would have scored more.
That's like pretty much an admission from Arne Slot that there was a time when I thought that Mo Salah was the problem, and it's very, very evident to me now that he is absolutely not the problem. If he had been with us, we would have got better results.
There's been a great sign in football for years that you're always a better player when you're injured, when you're not available. And I think him coming out of the squad there for a few weeks, obviously maybe Arne Slot has looked at that and gone, yeah, I've had this fella available all the time for me. I probably didn't value that maybe as much as I should have. And obviously him being around the dressing room, and I'm sure the standards that he sets for his teammates as well are massive. You know that by his own physique and how much of an ultra pro he is. I think that's playing its part in Slot's thinking there.
It's probably, I would argue that the Salah thing might have helped Slot certainly earlier in the season, when there was kind of the debate of should he be in the squad, are they playing better with him on the bench or in the starting 11? Because like the Leeds interview and the bombshell that was kind of helped Slot's case, in that it was like Salah had taken all the flack suddenly, that the attention was on him throwing the toys out of the pram. Whereas over the last few weeks where he's literally not been able to pick Salah, that's when he's been very exposed to a lot of criticism. So I think the sort of melodrama between Slot and Salah was actually probably serving him quite well, because it took the attention away from the fact that Liverpool haven't been playing well and they haven't been able to get good results. And the 1-1 draw against Burnley was just the latest in a long series of uninspiring results in what's been an uninspiring league. It wouldn't take a whole pile for them to be properly in the top four conversation, given the quality around them in the league at the moment.
Yeah, and while he's been away, the likes of Ekitike before he got his injury was showing really impressive signs. Wirtz has really come into it. So that's their front three tonight: Wirtz, Ekitike and Mo Salah. It's a midfield of McAllister, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. And then it's Van Dijk and Joe Gomez at centre-back. Kerkez at left-back, Frimpong at right-back, and Alisson in goals. A lot of familiar faces in the Marseille team tonight. So Rulli in goals, a back four of Amir Murillo, Benjamin Pavard, Leonardo Balerdi and Facundo Medina. You've got Timothy Weah on the right wing. You've got Hamid Junior Traore on the left, Kondogbia and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in midfield behind Amin Goyiri and Mason Greenwood. A couple of familiar faces on their bench as well. Matt O'Reilly is on the bench, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang also on the Marseille bench. Where do you want to go next, Cameron?
Well, Chelsea could come up, in fact they're going to come up against their former centre-back David Luiz. He's been named on the bench for Paphos tonight when they arrive at Stamford Bridge. Blues boss Liam Rosenior is keen to finish in the top 8 of the league phase and avoid the playoff round, but he insists their opponents tonight will provide a tough test.
They're still in a position where they can qualify. Analysing them, they have strengths in terms of the way Albert has put the team together that we have to be aware of. But we need to go out and perform really, really well and not think too much about how important it is to miss out games. The most important thing is qualifying.
Guys, I have to interrupt this broadcast to inform the nation. Another Troy Parrott goal.
Oh.
Amazing. What a time to be alive.
Not Yeovil Town's Troy Parrott, no.
No.
Okay, good.
AZ Alkmaar are 1-0 up at home to Excelsior. 65 minutes on the clock. Troy Parrott pops up and puts the ball into the back of the net. I have not seen the goal, so I need to talk like a nondescript football manager narrator. Troy Parrott with the finish to the back of the Excelsior goal. We'll get our eyeballs on that very shortly and describe it to you. But without having seen any of this footage whatsoever, Owen Doyle, this is a great night for Irish football.
And get him off the pitch now.
Yeah.
Get him off the pitch, wrap him in cotton wool. Always packs the lot, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be talking on the football show a little bit later about his potential destinations, because there's a lot of people sniffing around for Troy Parrott. But I get the sense that he's, like every Ireland fan, things are going pretty good for him right now. Why scup or any run of form or any sense of, you know, his body holding up in this team and in this league by moving anywhere. So we'll chat about that a little bit later on. What's next?
Well, just 6 changes for that Chelsea side from that 2-0 win over Brentford at the weekend. Cole Palmer, Mark Cucurella and Robert Sanchez among those left out, with Philippe Jorgensen, Malo Gusto, Benoit Badiashile, Wesley Fofana and Liam Delap all coming in. And tonight Newcastle welcome PSV Eindhoven to St James's Park. Just the one change from their scoreless draw against Wolves. Johan Visse starts in his first ever Champions League appearance, with Nick Valdemada dropping to the bench. All of those games, by the way, Owen, kicking off at 8 o'clock.
Our boy Nick Valdemada. It started well, Owen. And in recent weeks, it's dwindled in a sense of we were both wrong about this guy.
I forgot about our short-termism regarding players and stuff. But
we had laughed at Philip Lam.
Yeah, we did, yeah. That was out of order, though.
What he had said was out of order, yeah. He hadn't even kicked the ball in the Premier League and he was already slagging him off.
Yeah.
But it seems...
He's definitely done enough to say that he's capable in the Premier League, though. And there's a couple of moments in the last few weeks he's looking at balls coming into the box, and he's just I wouldn't even say his position was off. He's just unfortunate. I've seen one of them, he went for a diving header. If he had been any way further to get on the end of it, he would have been offside. So I think he's still picking up the good positions and stuff, and he's suffering with a team that's probably not filling their full potential at the minute.
Yeah, no, Newcastle kind of hard to get a read on at the moment. Cameron, let's move on to rugby. We've got our Six Nations squad named by Andy Farrell earlier.
Yeah, a 37-player selection for the upcoming Six Nations Championship. Owen Munster second row Edwin Adogbo and Ulster scrum half Nathan Doak, the two uncapped members of a squad pretty severely impacted by injuries, it has to be said. The Leinster front row pair of Andrew Porter and Paddy McCarthy are both ruled out, as are Cormac Izuchukwu, Robbie Henshaw, Jimmy O'Brien, Calvin Nash and Mac Hansen. That means recalls for Munster loosehead Jeremy Lockman, the Ulster duo of Tom Stewart and Rob Balakoon, and Leinster out half Harry Byrne. Tig Furlong and Finlay Beelum are included. They are injury doubts, however, so the inclusion of Thomas Clarkson and Tom O'Toole means there are 4 tight heads in the squad, while Harry Byrne will vie with Sam Prendergast, Jack Crowley and Kieran Frawley for the 10 jersey. They begin their campaign with a massive Thursday night trip to defending champions France on Thursday, February 5th.
When it comes to picking the big storylines out of this squad, it's confirmation really about the situation at loosehead and maybe 1 or 2 concerns about what's going to happen at tight head as well. So, no Paddy McCarthy, no Andrew Porter in the squad. I'm not sure what that says about the later stages of the Six Nations, but you wouldn't be particularly surprised if you're getting to game 4 and neither of those looseheads have played.
No, and it's a really tough couple of weeks. First up with France, obviously, in that Thursday night game. I think Andy Farrell has Jack Boyle, Jeremy Lockman and Michael Milne to choose from. They have 11 caps between them in terms of the starting loosehead, which is a crazy stat really in itself. And then you've got Italy, and you don't have you've got one less break week, so you've got England as well in the first 3, and then it's Wales and Scotland. So, and I don't know, I think this is going to be a tough year for Ireland. I think those away trips to Paris and London are going to be difficult, and Gregor Townsend is under a lot of pressure at Scotland right now. He was questioned after their defeats and the manner of their defeats against New Zealand and Argentina especially. I think Tom English really held him to account in a press conference saying, look, this is not good enough, this is a disgrace. And he didn't exactly back down. So I think this year is going to be the year that Scotland actually overturn Ireland finally. I don't know, I just have this really nagging sense that we're going to be taped together in terms of our injury profile by the end of that. It's going to be quite an abrasive, bruising Six Nations, and I don't know, I've got a sick feeling about that game.
Have Ireland been beaten by Scotland in Dublin in the Six Nations?
Ever?
I
think Croke Park 2010, Dan Parks provided a masterclass off the tee. But I don't think it's been...
The Six Nations era, so that's the one time in the last, 26 years.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, that's the last game. 14th of March. Maybe there's a loose head or 2 back for that game. That is a big prediction. I'm much more comfortable with you saying that than saying we're going to win the Grand Slam, to be fair.
Right.
That giving low expectations is what we should absolutely be doing at every opportunity over the next 20 months. But are you hearing this, Owen Doyle? You hear not beating Scotland in the Six Nations at home. I can see you shaking your head there thinking, what does this guy know about rugby?
Yeah, I'm out of my depth here big time, but are we not just brilliant at rugby, no? Far superior than Scotland? Squad depth, everything, no?
Well, it is rugby country, but I don't know. there's just so much pressure on Gregor Townsend, and I feel if he loses again to Ireland, that's it. He's going to get the sack. You don't get the sack in rugby.
That's enough for them
he
to
might
win.
depart. But I think it is. I think it's the final game. I think they'll be targeting it. I think they've probably been targeting it for quite some time and haven't really acquitted themselves very well when it comes to Ireland. Ireland have sort of been what France were to Ireland, say, in the noughties, where we just couldn't seem to get over the line against them. And this might be the one where Ireland at their weakest, when you've players like Hugh Jones, Sione Tuipulotu, who've been in with the Ireland players with the Lions and know all the trade secrets now at this stage. There's a lot of elements there that make me very, very wary.
Okay, fair enough. And I think we're all wary heading into this. The one thing I would say is that I've come around to the idea, and we'll talk to Fiona Hayes about this after 8 o'clock, that the Lions thing was a real thing for Ireland and for Leinster, especially when we were talking about the Leinster versus La Rochelle game, and someone like Will Skelton coming into La Rochelle and how it's taken even someone like him a bit of time to find his form this season after the elongated summer that Australia had. If Ireland and also Leinster, goes for them as well, are the bulk suppliers to the Lions, they also might have been suffering from the same sort of malaise in November, and maybe that's why we didn't see anywhere near the standards expected there, as opposed to it being the end of the team. When you look at, Josh van der Fleer and Robbie Henshaw flying up the right flank against La Rochelle a couple of weeks ago, you do start to think, maybe this team isn't quite finished. When you see Jamison Gibson Park starting to re-find his form, you start to think, maybe he's not finished. Maybe James Lowe comes back at some point during the Six Nations and re-finds his form. I wouldn't write that out. Granted, very glass half full sort of analysis on what's going on, but I'm starting to put some credence in it because it's been so long since Ireland have played, and this is when ridiculous thoughts start to enter your head that maybe Ireland can go to France and actually get something. And what were we saying last week? Was it a 6-point spread or something at the Ireland-France game? So even the bookies have this as whatever, a one converted try game, which says quite a lot. The way we're talking about it is Ireland will be doing very well not to get absolutely battered by France in Paris. And as you were pointing out yesterday as well, the France squad is quite an interesting one when you look at some of the personnel that have been dropped.
Yeah, they named their squad today. Fabien Galtier has left Damien Penaud, Gaël Ficou and Gregory Aldred out of that selection. Scrum half and captain Antoine Dupont's been included. He hasn't played for his country since suffering a cruciate ligament injury against Ireland last March. But I think Penaud is the big, the shock omission.
What's going on there?
I don't know. Now, he hasn't been as good or as proficient in try scoring this year. He scored 27 tries in 26 matches last season. He's only got 8 in 16 this year, and I think he got badly caught out for one try in particular against Northampton. Bordeaux won comfortably but didn't quite deal with a kick through. He wasn't particularly good against South Africa, I remember, in the autumn, and was probably at fault for a couple of tries there. So his star has sort of faded, and Galtier just falls out with people. That seems to be quite a common theme. Like Mathieu Jalibert is one of 2 fly halves in there. I don't think he would have picked him if Roman Ntomak wasn't injured. So there's a little bit of, he's trying to rebuild. I think 11 of the 17 backs in there have 10 caps or fewer. So there's a regeneration process there. They're the defending champions. Maybe the pressure's just a little bit off them this year. But it's a weird choice.
Yeah, it'd be a very interesting first 15 that we see in a couple of weeks' time. Let's get a bit of golf done here because Rory McIlroy's had some pretty interesting things to say.
He's criticised Ryder Cup teammate John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton for so far refusing to pay their outstanding fines for leaving the DP World Tour to join Live Golf. The situation could jeopardise the pair's selection for next year's clash with the USA at Adair Manor. Now, speaking today, McIlroy doesn't believe that a unification of Live with the PGA and DP World Tours will happen anytime soon.
Obviously on the DP World Tour there's a system of fines for Live players coming out which they need to pay up. Is that the right thing to have in place, do you think? Obviously we've got the appeal of...
Yeah, I mean, look, I think any organisation or any members organisation like this has a right to uphold its rules and regulations. And what the DP World Tour are doing is upholding their rules and regulations. And, we, as members, sign a document at the start of every year which has you agree to these rules and regulations, and the people that made the option to go to Live knew what they were. So I don't see what's wrong with that, I guess, is my opinion. We went really hard on the Americans last year about wanting paid to play the Ryder Cup. And we all sat up there and said that we would pay to play in Ryder Cups. There's 2 guys that can prove it.
Okay, so I guess ball is passed over to you, John Ram and Tyrrell Hatton, to see what they're going to do. But I think probably the battle lines were drawn last week, and John Ram not jumping back in with the PGA Tour possibly says where his intention lies over the next 12 months anyway. I think he's going to be a live man. On to the boxing then. There's been some interesting stuff with regards to the Katie Taylor fight today, or the prospect of Katie Taylor ever fighting in Croke Park.
Well, the Minister for Sport, Patrick O'Donovan, has stressed that the government won't intervene in any attempt by Katie Taylor to finish her career with a fight at Croke Park. So, of course, the World Boxing Council's champion in recess strongly suggested yesterday that she will retire from boxing this year. The brave fighter said she'd love to have her final bout in Croke Park. But Minister O'Donovan insists it's a matter for Taylor's team and the GAA only. He was speaking to Virgin Media's Cher Tracy.
Very important things that national governing bodies has is independence, and whatever Croke Park decide to do with regard to Gareth Brooks or Oasis or anybody else is entirely a matter for the GAA and Croke Park, and it's never appropriate for a minister to tell the national governing bodies of sport what they should do with their assets. But I want to thank her for everything that she has done for Ireland. Obviously she has given an enormous lift at a time when we needed it, and to wish her the very, very best of luck in whatever the road has in the next chapter in her life.
And would you be happy to sit down with the GAA and her promoters to try and get this over the line?
Nice try, second time. We don't do commercial interactions between national governing bodies and how they use their assets to grow their own revenue or for what they want to use their facilities for. That's for them, and it's a matter for the GAA.
Right, that's pretty clear. The government is not going to grease the wheels financially for this fight. Obviously, Eddie Hearn has been on the record in the past saying the Irish government should get involved and make this happen. And it does feel that we're kind of at an impasse now. Somebody's got to let their own sort of reputation take a little bit of a hit. Not even their reputation, their pride take a little bit of a hit. And if this is ever going to happen, but I'm losing hope that this is ever going to be a real prospect.
It's very disappointing, isn't it? I think the fact that he's completely washing his hands and saying the government aren't going to get involved, when you think of the amount of taxpayer money that's going into the preparations around the Ryder Cup at Adair Manor in 2 years or in a year's time at this stage. Even the fact that our own, I think then Taoiseach Micheál Martin was rowing in when the kind of super value Páirc Uí Chaoimh debate was going on, and felt that it was a matter that he should give his opinion on at the very least. It just feels, I don't know, maybe boxing is just something that TDs and other state sort of purveyors of our national sport and our national sport funding don't necessarily want to touch, and that probably hurts the boxing community in Ireland, that there's a little bit of, no, this is an hard fight, we're not going to get involved, the GAA have to come together with Katie Taylor's boxing team and sort this out, but we're not going to pave any sort of way, we're not going to give any sort of assistance. I'd find that a bit disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, I do think Katie Taylor is on a level so far above any other boxer in Ireland that even those in government should be able to see the difference here, that even if they are repulsed by the idea of boxing events, I think it would be the opposite feeling towards Katie Taylor, and it would just be a feeling of her being a national icon, which she is, and the fact that she won't have this opportunity unless somebody pulls a rabbit out of a hat somewhere. To be fair, I mean, the duty is probably on the promoter, and it's on Eddie Hearn, and it's on the organisers of the fight, as opposed to the government of a country to actually make this happen. Maybe you could also argue that it's a special case. When it comes to some of the other projects that you mentioned there, I'm sure that's something that a lot of people would agree with. The Adair situation, I presume, kind of comes with a whole host of other public projects that are going to come along with the role, and maybe when it comes to Super Valley Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's more personal opinion being aired when this was a topic of conversation. But no, it is quite, you can hear that tone, it's quite striking, and how blunt he is, and no, this isn't going to be something that we engage in.
I think Eddie Hearn should probably ring up the NFL and get a copy of their economic impact
there you go
study.
Yeah.
And or even just copy paste it, stick Katie's name across the top of it, and let's go in and back a national treasure, because there's loads of talk regarding women's participation in sport, retention of women in sport, and I'd argue that there's no one has done more for women's retention in sport, and will do for the remaining decades potentially, than Katie Taylor. She's one of our greatest ever athletes, and she's a female. And if you're going to back anyone, back her, is what I'd be saying. And I'd have zero doubts as well that Katie Taylor an ending to Katie Taylor's career in Croke Park would be a sellout as well. I think if Eddie Hearn has anything about him, do that, go down that avenue. That's what seems to make the government tick when it comes to these things. She'd be highly valuable, and it would, like as Cameron said earlier on, like there would be a big tax return there for her on a big event in Croker.
Yeah, if you got an American football game as the undercard to Katie Taylor, you get this fight to happen. Is what you're saying. Get a flyover from the US Air Force, and Katie Taylor can finally take her place amongst Irish sporting greats in Croke Park
on their way to Greenland.
Yeah. Do you want to give us one more story there, Cameron, before you wrap up?
Yeah, we'll finish with the news that Republic of Ireland striker Michael Obafemi has joined Blackpool on loan until the end of the season. The 25-year-old spent the first half of the season at German club Bochum, where he featured only 3 times. And actually, just to finish on this story, Owen, Ireland's Owen Jennings will be in action in the final qualifier for the Junior Australian Open in the early hours of tomorrow morning. So he'll face Greece's Odysseus Geladaris at midnight Irish time. The winner will advance to the main draw for the tournament.
Okay, very good, Cameron Hill. Thank you very much for that. Larry, it's fair to say, has been in touch to say he completely disagrees with my positive spin on where the Ireland rugby team is at. He says, lads, stop. Ireland rugby is in a diabolical state. Age profile is terrible. Andy is backing centrally contracted players blind, and it's affecting us, unearthing those diamonds in the rough. I'd change the manager straight after the Six Nations. Being honest, I would have done it pre-Lions, which is your opinion. I mean, the proof will be in the pudding. Maybe Ireland will get the wooden spoon, and you'll be completely proven right at the end of this. Kieran, meanwhile, asked the question, could teams boycott the World Cup because of Trump? That's the question we're going to ask after the break with Nicholas McGeechan, after there were concerns reported from a UEFA meeting yesterday about the situation involved in Greenland. So we'll take a quick break, go to that, and before that, it's the Cash Machine.
News Talk's Cash Machine.
Now, after another big winner last Friday, there's more cash to be won this Friday. The number you need to know is €125,000 exactly. And there are 2 ways you can enter. You can visit newstalk.com/cash machine, where you can enter online, or you can text play to 57557. That's 57557. You have to get your entry in by 3 p.m. next Friday. Then across the Go Loud network of stations, someone will